All right, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel, and I got some breaking news for you guys. Today, Tesla has bought $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, which is pretty much more than MicroStrategy bought all year of 2020. And this news is probably equally as big as the PayPal news or just Grayscale in general buying Bitcoin and raising the price as well. As we know that some odd months ago, Bitcoin was at about $10,000, and then all of a sudden the PayPal news comes out that PayPal is now accepting it, and you can buy and trade, etc. That's when the price of Bitcoin went from like 10K to 14, 15, and then the FOMO just drove it up from there. And now we have Daddy Elon Musk, who is perpetuating Dogecoin, Bitcoin, etc. Whenever he mentions Bitcoin, it goes up by thousands of dollars. Whenever he mentions Doge, it just starts pumping for whatever reason. And now we have Tesla literally buying $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, and they also plan to allow the purchase of Teslas via Bitcoin. However, it's unsure, or it's unclear yet when that's actually going to occur, the actual buying of Teslas via Bitcoin. And it's also unclear if Tesla is actually going to hold on to that Bitcoin that they receive for Teslas, or if they're just going to do what a lot of businesses do and just instantly cash out to fiat when you send it to them. So Bitcoin jumped by almost $3,000 in minutes on February 8th as reports emerged that Tesla had bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Data from Cointelegraph Markets and TradingView tracked USD to BTC as a sudden spike to over $41,000 appeared as the news of Tesla's plans trickled in. And because of this, we have seen all-time high of Ethereum today and all-time high of Bitcoin, which reached something over $44,200. I think it's gone down about $1,000 or so dollars. We'll check that later. But we have seen at least two new all-time highs today. Many other coins also reached an all-time high, but just focusing on Ethereum, Bitcoin here. A filing of the United States regulatory with the SEC shows that the company plans to buy $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. In January 2021, we updated our investment policy to provide us with more flexibility to further diversify and maximize returns on our cash that is not required to maintain adequate operating liquidity. As part of the policy, which was duly approved by the audit committee of our board of directors, we may invest a portion of such cash in certain alternative reserve assets, including digital assets, gold bullion, gold exchange traded funds, and other assets as specified in the future. It states, thereafter, we invested an aggregate $1.5 billion in Bitcoin under this policy and may acquire and hold digital assets from time to time or long term. Moreover, we expect to begin accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment for our products in the near future, subject to applicable laws and initially on a limited basis, which we may or may not liquidate upon receipt. So liquidating upon receipt would just be as soon as you give them the Bitcoin, it's just instantly liquidated. Like BitPay does that, PayPal does that. So if you send Bitcoin to a merchant via PayPal, it's just instantly liquidated and they get the fiat. Same thing with BitPay. Like if you buy something on Newegg, I remember they were using BitPay for a while. You're basically just sending Bitcoin to BitPay, and then BitPay sends the money to the merchant. Which, fair enough, I suppose. The move follows encouraging signs from CEO Elon Musk, the world's richest man, who last week openly stated he was a supporter of Bitcoin. Since then, however, signals have been mixed after Musk removed Bitcoin from his Twitter biography, but continued tweeting and promoting Dogecoin. So this is all over the news. As we look at the news here, we can see a ton of different things on this. So Tesla's investment in Bitcoin is really a big deal. Bitcoin jumps to record 44,000. Tesla buys 1.5 billion, et cetera, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And a lot of people are talking that, is this even legal for him to do? He was talking about Bitcoin and Dogecoin before this, and then all of a sudden he buys $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin goes up. Tesla is now looking better because of it. But at the same time, he's just a dude, and anybody can just tweet that they enjoy Bitcoin or something like that. So again, I think the SEC will probably look into this again, but find that there's nothing wrong with it. Tesla allocates 7.7% of gross cash to Bitcoin. So another worded article here. Tesla sent shockwaves across the financial markets Monday after after the SEC filing that it's going to add Bitcoin to its balance sheet. Tesla's latest Form 10K filing for the fiscal year ended December 31st. Shows a 1.5 billion allocation to Bitcoin. As Bitwise researcher David Lamont points out, Tesla's Bitcoin exposure represents roughly 7.7% of its gross cash position. According to the most recent 10K filing, Tesla had cash equivalents of 19.4 billion gross, or 98 billion net of debt and finance leases. Using these figures as a reference, 1.5 billion in Bitcoin represents an allocation of 7.7% on gross cash, or 15.1% on net cash. So again, Elon Musk's Twitter profile here, it just basically, there was nothing about this purchase of Bitcoin for Tesla, although I didn't really look at the Tesla Twitter. I think there's a separate Tesla Twitter. But all it says is back to work I go 13 hours ago. And then at some point, they purchased $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. Another thing in the news now, oh boy, what did CME do now? So, CME Futures is a cash-backed futures exchange that also picked up Bitcoin in December 2017. The day that they started trying to trade Bitcoin futures was the day that Bitcoin actually started lowering in price. And you can see that, that it was December 18th, 17th when CME Futures actually came out, and it was pretty much about that exact same day that Bitcoin started going down in price. So a number of people claim that CME Futures was one of the reasons why the price of Bitcoin crashed in 2017, although I argue that it was probably a bunch of ICOs selling off. It was BitConnect being called out as a scam. Genesis Mining was kind of shutting down. Basically, the price of Bitcoin heated up way too fast, way too quick. All of the proof of work coins that were coming out every day, the ICOs, the consistent Ponzi schemes that were popping up over and over, and everyone just fled with the money. So was CME the reason that it dumped? Maybe. It's quite the coincidence indeed that they came out virtually the same day that Bitcoin dumped in price, but you could argue that it was one of the reasons. But Ethereum futures are now trading on CME. So a lot of people were bearish about this, but so far it hasn't really affected the price. And it really shouldn't affect the price. I mean, these are cash-backed futures. So basically you're putting cash up. It's basically a horse race. It shouldn't affect the horses at all. You're just basically saying, I want to put 100 down on horse number 7. And if that horse wins, I get money. If it loses, I lose money. That's basically what CME futures is. There is no coin, really. It's just, you're just betting on the price going up and down. However, that could leave one person to say, okay, well, if I can put a whole bunch of money on shorting on the futures going down of Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then I sell a whole swath of Bitcoin and Ethereum and dump the price, not only am I going to get the money from selling all of my Ethereum and Bitcoin, I'm also going to get extra money from CME because I used some of that money to bet on the price of it going down. So there is a bit of incentive to crash or to pump the market when it comes to CME futures. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange has launched its much anticipated futures contracts for Ether, the native Ethereum blockchain network token, announced in mid-December. Trading in Ether futures went live Sunday, with the February contract registering an open price of $1,669 at the time. The spot price stood around $1,600. The Chicago-based exchange has traded 77 contracts so far, with most activity concentrated on the February expiry. The futures contracts are legal agreements to buy or sell crypto asset at a predetermined price at a later date. However, these, as last I knew, and for the duration of CME, it is cash-backed, so you're basically betting that the price is going to go up, and you don't get Ethereum, you don't get Bitcoin, you don't get, you just get money. So if you're betting money, you're getting money. So it really shouldn't have too much of an effect on the price, except for the incentive for somebody to try to manipulate the markets around the price that you're trying to manipulate on CME, which is really not too crazy of a conspiracy to do that, especially considering a lot of people had Bitcoin when CME futures first came out in 2017. I would say that there was a lot more whales then than there is today in certain ways, if you don't count Grayscale and various exchanges, etc. And it was likely that some of them were betting on the price to go down, and at the same time realizing that the price cannot continue moving like this because there's BitConnect, there's all these Ponzi schemes and things like that. And then they started to sell. The world's first regulated Ether futures product may draw more institutional demand for the second largest cryptocurrency by market value, boosting the recent price rally. So while Bitcoin topped out on the same day and subsequently moved into a year-long bear market, Ether is likely to remain bid. The market is now more mature, the macro is different, and there are different players involved, trader and analyst Alex Kruger said, ruling out a significant crash in Ether because basically, the CME announced plans to list futures contracts on December 16th, mimicking Bitcoin's surge from 6,000 to 19,783, seen in weeks leading up to the December 17th, 2017, when the exchange began trading Bitcoin futures. Was pretty much the 17th and the 18th pretty much together was the very top of Bitcoin in 2017, and that's when it started going down. So it's natural to assume, hey, like there was a coincidence here. These futures came out, everybody was a bit bullish on them. Oh, now we have this official futures market, and then all of a sudden, and now it's gone. It's like the day that they came out. So it was a little bit fishy, but again, you have to argue a ton of other factors of 2017. There was just so many proof of work coins being sold off and mined and bought for virtually no reason. BitConnect, Ponzi schemes, Genesis Mining, Hashflare, all these different things that were just essentially set to crash. But that's all I have for you guys today. Again, the market cap looking super good. Nearly $1.3 trillion market cap. 43,246 Bitcoin. I think we reached a high of something like 44,200, somewhere around there. We did see an all-time high of Ethereum today as well. Looking at the chart here, again, this is just coin market cap, so you're not going to see the exacts, but nearly $1,767, and I'd imagine on some exchanges maybe it did candle to $1,800. But things are looking pretty good. And now that Tesla has bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, or at least plans to, I think they actually did buy it, and then they plan to accept the Bitcoin. But you know, and MicroStrategy also held that conference with something like 1,400 other corporations attended, plus something like some number like that, all to learn about how their company can also buy millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin legally and be able to legally hold it, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's all I have for you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. That helps me out a lot. My social media in the description below. Also, memberships are active. You look 32% more cool when you comment on the channel, when you have the membership badge than when you don't. Hey, those are big gains. Take them or leave them. Either way, I'll see you guys next time.